As President Trump made clear during the G7 summit last week, Russia should make a deal. Time is not on Moscow's side.
Has Washington changed its position on the Ukraine war? Russia's Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov certainly thinks so. In a fiery speech, Lavrov accused the United States of abandoning the peace framework it had earlier discussed with Moscow and returning to its old policy of pressure, sanctions, and ceasefire demands. The Russian foreign minister said President Donald Trump had initially shown what he called common sense after returning to the White House, but that approach is now being undermined.
At the press conference following this meeting in Evian, Macron spoke a lot about the comprehensive consolidation of the Group of Seven on an anti-Russian basis. He rejoiced that in Evian Europe was able to prove to Donald Trump the erroneousness of the agreements reached in Alaska in August 2025 and to change Washington's position. In other words, he boasted that he allegedly knocked the President of the United States off the road to peace and directed him onto the warpath.
Lavrov's remarks come just hours after the United States called for an immediate ceasefire at the UN Security Council. Washington said, "Diplomacy and negotiations are the only answer," and urged Russia to make a deal, warning that time is not on Moscow's side. But Lavrov pushed back strongly, accusing the US of abandoning its role as a neutral mediator in the conflict.
As for the United States, as far as their actions can be assessed, they seem to be stepping away from the claim to the role of an objective mediator and are following the same course of increasing sanctions pressure on Russia. Already, in addition to the extension of all Biden's sanctions, a rather large package of sanctions by the Trump administration against Russia has been adopted.
The Russian foreign minister argued that Washington is no longer pursuing the same goals it once publicly endorsed. According to Lavrov, Trump had earlier backed a long-term settlement to the conflict, but the United States is now focused only on securing a ceasefire. Moscow has repeatedly claimed that a temporary truce would merely give Ukraine time to regroup and rearm.
Forgotten is the statement of the President of the United States, made immediately after Anchorage, that Ukraine needs a long-term peace, not a truce for a couple of years, and that Alaska laid the foundation for movement in this direction.
Lavrov then delivered his sharpest criticism yet. Without naming the US envoy at the United Nations, he pointed to Washington's latest ceasefire push as proof that America has changed course. The Kremlin's top diplomat suggested the White House is no longer talking about a lasting settlement, but only about stopping the fighting temporarily.
Literally yesterday, the U.S. Deputy Permanent Representative to the UN demanded an immediate ceasefire. Nothing more, he did not speak of any long-term settlement.
For Moscow, the distinction is crucial. Russia says it wants what it calls a permanent solution to the conflict, while accusing the West of seeking a pause that would allow Kyiv to rebuild its military capabilities. Lavrov's message was clear. Russia believes Washington is walking away from the Alaska understanding and returning to the same policies that, in Moscow's view, have only prolonged the war.